Alright, we are going to suspend a fishing float. This is a kind of an average sized one, amber colored, and I believe this one is machine made, yeah, because it's got the lines on it. The first thing you need to do is figure out how many rings you want to put around it. On the smaller ones like this, I'd use a pretty sturdy jump ring, but it doesn't have to be that strong. This is a 16 gauge 3/16 inch jump rings. And I already measured this out. It looks like it'll take about 24 jump rings to go around this little knot, or button I think they call them. And so I basically need 48 jump rings. And the easiest way for me to do it, or that I've found to do it, I haven't, keep flipping them, is to open all the, or half the jump rings, and close the other half. Then you can just connect them together really quick. And I won't videotape all this because it's just the same thing over and over again. And then go on to the next one till you get to the end. And when you get to the last one, you got to make sure that you line them up correctly. So what I usually do is I hold it like this, and then I line it up straight, straight. Every other one is going to be straight, 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 straight. And that means that this loops over, connects onto that. All right. Now this part is a little tricky. You basically want to take your elastic cords, which I've pre-cut, to measure them. You basically just go like, okay, so that's got to go here. It stretches, makes it tight. Plus I got a little bit of room for the knot. That should be pretty good. So I'd say make it about, 3/4 the length that you need to go all the way from point to, or top of the axis to the bottom of the axis. And the hardest part about this is getting them, or making sure they're lined up. I mean, I've made a couple of these, and it's really easy to tie it in there and then have it be in the wrong spot. I've done that a few times. First one's obviously easy. As long as you go on the outside, see? And then just tie a quick knot. Doesn't have to be that perfect or anything. Just because you're going to be cutting these. You don't really need these. These are just to hold it in place. So that's one, and I got 6 here. So that means I can go in every other one. So let's see if I can show this on video. So this one, this one, and this one. So this one will be next, in the same direction. And that means that this one is going to be, roll it, so it'd be this side, right? Oops. That's what I mean, it's kind of tricky. You basically want it to be this, to go in this side. And it can go underneath or it can go over the top, because it doesn't matter if you twist them. All that matters is that it's in the right location and going in the right, either in the inside or the outside, depending on if it's the left or right set of rings. And then just do that all the way around, every other one, or whichever you feel. You can do them on every one of them, but it's not really necessary. So I'll pause the video now and finish this up. Okay, here's my web of elastic and jump rings. This is the trickiest part of the whole process, is getting this thing on there. Everything else is pretty straightforward. I mean, it takes time, but first thing you want to do is get a piece of masking tape and figure out where the opposite point is from your button. Sometimes they have more than one button, but most of the time they only have just one. So basically right about, oh, it's crooked. That looks pretty good. All right, and then, ooh, looks like it might be a little off. Let's go like this. All right, good enough. Now, it's easiest to start on the button because the button will hold it in place. Essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to get this around. See how I have it like that? And then I hold it and then arrange it like that. Not too bad. Straighten it out and get all the jump rings going in the right directions, or key rings depending on what you're using. That looks pretty good. Adjust it so that it's, and you can tweak all this when you put the cord in. It doesn't have to be perfect, just has to kind of be in the general area. That does actually look pretty good though. I'm getting better at making these. I've already made a couple of them. Okay, cool. That actually looks pretty good. Okay, now for this one, I really like the color. These are nickel silver, kind of a light, very light brass color. And I use this tape thing to hold it. Very simple. And I got some cork cord, which I've never used before. I got this from this lady in Spain. I also got this background from her. And I wouldn't put this outdoors, this cork stuff, because it would probably get ruined. If you're going to do something for an outdoor, an outdoor hanging sphere, I'd recommend using something that's, suitable for outdoor stuff. But I thought the cork would look really cool with this, and I believe I was correct. Alright, so basically you're going to start it, and you're just going to string one to the other, and keep it kind of loose. I like to keep the knot, let's start this way. I like to keep the knot on the button. Leave plenty of room for yourself, for your hanging area. And this gets a little convoluted, because these cords are always so long. And you don't have to worry too much about being even, because when you tighten it, it'll automatically straighten itself out. Unless you're doing one of the crooked ones. Well, even then it'll work, but it's a little bit more tricky. So, just go from there to there, pull it through. And this will take a while, because they do tie up and they are twisty. But basically it's just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until you get it all loosely strung. It doesn't really have to be loose, but I don't know, it looks like I'm going to get tangled here. Poor planning. But this is what happens. This is what happens when you make these. Oh no, did it get tangled? That means I have to start all over again. Let's pull this end out. That'd be a lot easier than doing the other one. But that's the kind of thing that happens when you do this. Tie yourself in knots. So I really don't mind it being in a video. Alright, back to the beginning. And since I got such a long piece, I'll go back. Looks like I found an easier way to do it. See, that's the thing. The more you do these, the more you'll learn better ways to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. If you have a really sharp jump ring, or if you have one of those key rings that has the kind of rough edge, it might scrape up your cord. I tend to get the best supplies I can find, simply because I want them to, whatever I make, to last a while. But there are some that are kind of rough, and it might, particularly with cork, it's very possible that it would scrape a big rip in the edge of the rope. Alright, so you get the idea. So I'm going to stop the video now until I get this finished loosely. Back and forth and back and forth. Okay. As you can see, the two ends are going through the same jump ring, which provides a little tension. And because I'm going to be pulling this and making it tighter, I want to make sure that this doesn't slide out as I pull. So I'm going to tie a knot, but you could also wrap it around the jump ring a couple times. I like the knot though, because then it won't pull through and it looks nice and clean. Alright, so there's my knot. Now basically, you just pull this and try to keep it lined up. Like I can look at this and I can say, this is a little bit leaning towards this area. So what I really need to do is I need to pull it in this direction. So I'm going to start over here and start pulling it like this. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start pulling it in this direction. You have to do this a couple times to get it right. If you're as picky as me, anyway. Don't have to be as picky as me. This one's nice because it'll hold it in place. But if you have this blank space, it'll slide all over the glass. So make sure I can keep this in the frame here, which is kind of difficult to do. Okay. See, I'm pulling it closer and closer, or I guess more in that direction. And once I loosen up the other side, I can do that even more so. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just try to line it up as well as you can. Man, I like this cork cord. It's pretty cool. Never used it before. Alright, actually looks pretty good. Even looks pretty straight, even though my tape's where my tape is. Basically what I'm doing is I'm tipping it. See how it's flat here, and tipping it so it's flat here. And rotating that all the way around and doing the same thing to make sure. Wow, that looks pretty good actually. Interesting. Okay, so this is crooked. This isn't. Man, this looks great. I think I might actually be done. Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm going to call this done. And cord will stretch over time, so you want to make sure you make it nice and tight. Wow, this looks cool. I'm glad I picked the cork cord. I was going to go with this kind of cream colored stuff. More of like a tightly woven, satiny looking cord. But I like this better. It kind of matches the natural tone. Wow, this looks great. Okay, cool. So then, I just tie this knot right here. Wow, this came really close. Most cords you get will come in about 10-meter increments. Or I would recommend getting at least 10 meters, because you're going to need a lot of cord to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I wouldn't pull this cord too tight because I'm afraid I'm going to crack the cork, but tight enough. Okay, and now I just take this, and you can make the loop any way you want to make it, but basically what I do is I find the, let's see, which one am I going through? This one? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's the one that goes all the way across. So what I'll do is I'll take and put one on either side. If I can figure out a way to get that open. There we go. Okay. And then put this one on the other, and you can do it any way you want. I've done every one of them I've done differently, so I'm basically just trying new stuff. But this actually looks cool, and also it'll be different if you have an odd number of rings. I mean, you'll always be even, but if you have like 11, you'll have 22, but you'll still have 11 spaces. So basically I take this, make sure they're even, and then tie it. Let's cut this off right here. That's okay, and then just tie it like this. I'll do a diagram for this knot. Basically, you want to make sure that it goes, rather than go like that, see how it's crossing and twisting the thing, you want to go over that to make a nice clean knot. Wow, this is cool cord. I'm getting more of this. I'll put a link to where I bought this stuff too. Or you can just search for, yeah, just search for cork cord, because you might be in a different location if you want to use cork. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And then, there you have it. The last thing you got to do is just take these, clip, 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 and these are actually leftovers from a larger float that I did. Just reused them, and you can use any elastic cord. This is just some stuff that I had on hand. Kind of hard to grab it. Actually, yeah, the round stuff would be a lot easier to grab than this flat stuff. But it is what I had, and that's what I used, and it worked out fine. Well, I got one left, two left. Let go, dude. Alright, where's this connected? And there, and then you kind of straighten it out. Oh, this has a lot of cords on it. Wow, this is awesome. I'm putting this in the window. I'll take a video of it outside so you can see the amber color. Anyway, even it out, and then it's like a house ornament. Very cool. I hope you enjoy making these, and if you do, post a video. I'd like to see what you do. Oh, take the tape off. Last finishing touch, take the tape off. And that's what it looks like. Beautiful. Alright, here's the finished piece. Looks pretty good. For the floats and the gazing balls, I recommend using key rings as opposed to jump rings because they're a lot stronger and those things weigh a lot. So I'm going to show you how these are extremely heavy duty key rings. They're only 1/2 inch, so they're very hard to open. What I usually do is take my fingernail and press it in there until it pops open. And I take a flat nose pliers, slide it, make about a 1/4 inch gap or an 1/8 inch gap, just enough to grab it. And then I take, see there's a little gap in here where the wire bends. I slide that in there, kind of twist it, take another pliers, pull that pliers out, and then just turn it. There you go. And another way that I do the key rings, which is what I did for my first float that I hung, is a little difficult, but if you're into it, it's worth a shot. You have to keep, let's turn that a little bit more. This one has to be a little bit further out. You have to push the pliers further in towards the back because it raises it up higher. And you have to have more room here. Because what you're going to do is you're going to place this over here, hold it with your thumb, and squeeze it really tight. And then you take your gap, and slide it right into your opening, and twist it again. Hold it. It is difficult. And then pull out your pliers and twist it. Sometimes you have to find the gap to twist it through. And then what this does, just treat it like one of these jump rings. Like instead of this, you'd have this. You'd have like a dozen of these or 11 of these going all the way around. So you'd have this blank, or one key ring and then another one and a blank. One key ring, blank key ring. I guess that's appropriate. But the nice thing is, what it does is it rests right on the globe like that, all the way around, so that when your rope goes through, rather than go like this and twist, which is a neat effect, it'll go like this, nice and straight. But these are difficult to make. It might be a little easier with jump rings. I never tried it with jump rings. Anyway, whatever you prefer. Again, have fun. This is the first one I made. This is a float that my mom had, and I've been wanting to do something with it since she passed away. And I found it a few weeks ago, and I had some rope, so I started playing around, and this is what I came up with. I liked it a lot. It turned out pretty cool. So anyway, she also had a gazing ball that she kept in her garden, and I'm making one of those as well. Pretty cool. I wanted to kind of share how I did it because it wasn't very difficult, and I know these things are collectible. And there's always something to be said for sticking something funky on the ceiling and creating a little chill out zone. Here's the second one I made. Something a little different on this one. I crossed the ropes. You can see a little bit more of the globe that way. And the gazing globes have these rubber caps on here. And it was blue, so I painted it black with just acrylic paint before I put it together. Wow, this is cool. And these are a lot lighter than the floats, so if you're worried about weight, you can get one of these. Plus these come in all different flavors. You can get weird holographic looking ones, you can get clear ones, metal ones. Wow. Alright, here are the rope patterns. This is just the basic one for the one that I showed being made. And this is the one that I used for the gazing globe. The only thing you really have to pay attention to is whether it goes over or under or over or under or over or under the cords as you go around. And you need an odd number of rings to connect to. If you use an even number, then you'll need 2 cords. And this one I haven't done yet. It's basically just a more in-depth version of the second pattern. But it looks pretty cool. And here is the knot that I used for the elastic and for the for tying it off. There you go.